We're currently watching a company massacre themselves before our very eyes. So, PlayStation has just announced that they will no longer be making physical discs for games. They are only going to be making digital games now. This might sound like it's not that big of a deal, but we are actually watching a company self destruct in real time. This person sums it up perfectly. You're killing ownership, you're killing legal preservation, you're killing discoverability, you're killing publishers, you're killing developers. This is a move that might slightly improve bottom lines, but tear down every aspect of this medium. Well done, you effed up. Domino's Pizza stepped in here and says, makes about as much sense as us changing to digital pizzas. So, as they pointed out, and as I'm sure you guys actually understand, they are going ahead and killing ownership on video games. There is currently movements out there right now called Stop Killing Video Games. Stop Killing the Internet is one that's become big too. And what's going on right now is a lot of these game companies right now are trying to make it so you really don't own your games anymore. They want it all to be digital. They want it all to be done in a way where they can actually shut down our games whenever they want to. They don't want you to have physical media anymore, because if you have physical media, then you can actually play your own game at your own will, and you don't have to rely on PlayStation servers and whatnot to do so. But here's their statement over here. As consumer preferences and the broader entertainment industry continue to shift away from physical disc to digital, physical game disc production for all new games releasing on PlayStation consoles will be discontinued starting January 2028. Following this date, new games will be available on PlayStation Store and at retailers in digital formats only. This transition has no impact on games that are already released or will be releasing prior to January 2028 in disc format. This is a natural direction for Sony Interactive Entertainment to adapt to consumer trends, as a general preference for digital media significantly outpaces physical discs. This transition will enable us to align more closely with how most of our community prefers to access and play games today. We'll continue to prioritize our resources to drive innovation in how players can access games and provide choices as to where players prefer to purchase new games, whether that's at retailers or PlayStation Store. We remain committed to delivering a world-class gaming experience to our fans, and we thank you for your continued support. So there's a lot that we can, dissect over here, but one thing I just want to go ahead and point out here is when they say that people prefer digital gaming over physical discs, I would argue that is more so because people don't have a choice anymore. All gaming has essentially become digital now, and there are still a very large group of people who like collecting game discs and like having physical media, but it just keeps disappearing over time because of companies like you making decisions like this. And people are always saying this whole thing, you will own nothing, right? You will own nothing and be happy has become like a tagline to combat these gaming companies that are like trying to make everything digital over here, because they are really making it so you will not physically own anything and you'll be happy. I mean, that's where the phrase comes from, right? This person says, then stop selling digital games for the same price as physical ones too. You're removing the printing, box, and shipping prices from the equation completely, so I shouldn't be paying $70 for digital games anymore. There's no reason to stay with PlayStation anymore. After more than 30 years with Sony, I'm switching to PC. With no physical games, there isn't a single valid reason to stay with PlayStation instead of buying a PC. Sony has officially killed its own appeal. PC has won. And here's an example of why digital media is not as good as physical media. This is what happens when you buy digital, by the way. As of September 1st, 2026, due to our content licensing arrangements, you will no longer be able to watch any of your previously purchased Studio Canal content, and the content will be removed from your video library. Thank you. The nerve to say thank you at the end. Clearly, play does have limits. So yeah, them hitting you with a thank you is the nail in the coffin. Yeah, exactly. So this person, there's a few people out there that are like essentially trying to defend or downplay the fact that PlayStation is going to digital. This person says, my friend had this game in physical. They shut the servers down because of the poor sales. He still cannot play it anymore. Also, physical games are nothing more than a game key, unfortunately. But that game is multiplayer only. So obviously people are referring to physical games for single player for most of the time on why they would be upset. But also, I mean, people just like to keep physical memorabilia, right? Just having the actual physical games themselves, at least you can keep the disc no matter what. Game keys can technically be taken away from you for whatever reason, meaning you don't truly own the game. I mean, people are going to try to like downplay how bad this is, and they're going to try to like defend PlayStation over here. But I also have like a personal vendetta against PlayStation because some of the decisions they've made recently, if you guys remember, and maybe a lot of you guys have forgotten, PlayStation actually had a very big decision that will be going live in June of 2026. It's already live right now. And that is PlayStation age verification. People have forgotten about this because, so much time has gone by and there's been so much news around the world. This is kind of like a regular problem that you'll see in the world right now. There's so much news being shoved down your throat and so much of it is negative that you actually tend to forget things that happened only a few months ago. So I don't blame you guys if you guys have forgotten about this. But in April, PlayStation announced that they will be having ID age verification for communication features in June of 2026. So it is already live and active right now. People might not think this is that big of a deal because it is currently active only in the UK and Ireland, but that is how all ID age verification was, right? It started off in the UK 2023. They wanted to go ahead and have ID age verification for adult websites. And now look, in the House of the United States 2026, recently, the United States passed the Kids Act, which would have ID age verification for pretty much every single adult website. They're trying to do it for social media as well. It's going to be going into the Senate soon, and we have to try to stop that. But back to PlayStation, PlayStation already has ID age verification implemented in June, right? So basically, I don't really think this is a coincidence here. They're going ahead and relying more and more on AI for age verification. They're likely relying on AI for their overall operation, like pretty much every company out there is doing. So PlayStation is going to be having ID age verification, and they're probably going to be doing it globally eventually as well. So there really is no reason to stay with PlayStation anymore. And that really hurts me to say because I remember how excited me and my older brother were when we were like really young and we got our first PlayStation 1, right? That's how old I am, right? But when we got our first PlayStation 1, we were so excited. I remember when we got our first PlayStation 3, we were so excited about that. I was so happy to play the games, NBA 2K and stuff. But the difference was I actually had the physical discs at the time. I also am old enough to remember the 2011 PlayStation Network outage, which is referred to as like the most infamous moment in PlayStation history when they had their 2011 PSN hack. So essentially what happened is there's a bunch of personal details that got compromised, but also nobody was able to actually access the PlayStation servers for what was it, like 2 weeks or so? Actually about 3 weeks or so, right? And so I remember, being upset that we weren't able to play multiplayer games or whatever. But imagine nowadays if that was to happen, and it does happen because there's so many data leaks and hacks going on right now. In 2028, when this change is supposed to be implemented, imagine not being able to play any type of games at all because all the games will be digital. PlayStation also claims that they have our best interests at heart in terms of delivering the best gaming experience, but also another thing that really makes me upset with them is not only are they doing ID age verification, which they will most likely roll out globally eventually, but they're also using Yoti as their ID age verification vendor. PlayStation is using a company called Yoti for ID age verification, meaning they are going to be the ones that you're going to send your information to, and they're supposed to be the ones that are keeping it safe. Well, if only a YouTuber out there had made a video talking about how shady Yoti is and how they shouldn't be trusted at all. Has anybody made a video like that? Well, I did. This dumbass did. I made a video about Yoti talking about the fact that they actually were fined $1 million by Spain for mishandling biometric data. Yoti was not fined or sued by a random company. They were sued and fined by an entire country. Spain went ahead and sued Yoti because they were mishandling biometric data and they were proven to be unreliable in a court of law. They were obtaining invalid consent for research and developing processing in violation, excessive data retention. I mean, they were going ahead and doing all this shady stuff. And PlayStation, now knowing all this, is still working with Yoti, despite the fact that, once again, they have been sued by an entire country. They have been fined by an entire country of Spain for not being reliable and for having shady business practices. But PlayStation doesn't give a shit because, again, I believe, and this is again just my tinfoil theory here, I believe all of these companies are actually complicit in trying to take away our data, our information. It is all about control at the end of the day. This is actually related to ID age verification in a way because by taking away the physical disc from new games and making it so we don't own any media, they are taking away the control of us purchasing our own products. Everything has to be a subscription nowadays. Everything has to go through digital means. Everything has to go through AI means. Everything has to go through an ID age verification means. So it just gets to the point where a lot of these companies right now deserve to actually go bankrupt and get boycotted. I know some people might think that that is extreme or whatever, but I believe PlayStation should be boycotted and go bankrupt for this situation. I already am a PC gamer. I've already been playing PC games for many years now, but I really urge a lot of you guys who are on PlayStation right now to quit PlayStation because they don't give a crap about you or me or anybody. Yes, I understand that it's business and no company is obligated to care about their users, but once they spit in our face too many times, we should leave their organization, we should leave their company and stop buying their products because they should go bankrupt over this. I hope PlayStation stock goes down tremendously because of this decision. And I don't care if they went ahead and announced this 2 years early because apparently this is going to be happening in 2028 to try to relieve some backlash. They should be getting shit on for the next 2 years and honestly until the end of time. Any company that is doing this type of stuff, especially with ID age verification, should be boycotted, no questions asked. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on the situation in the comments. PlayStation just ruined their reputation just like that. Please leave a like in the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more. See ya.